Hi everyone, thanks for tuning in again. If you've been following along, we have been building a forum system, a forum script, or forum software, whatever we want to call it. Just kind of give a quick recap for anyone that's joining for the first time or watching this video back for the first time, is we will be creating a forum software. It's kind of going back to my childhood. What I used to grow up using was kind of forum software to discuss web development, and really where I took off, and that's where my kind of interest took off for programming. And I was using PHP back then, and one of the bits of forum that I used to hang around on and build themes for and extensions and plugins was actually XMB. Another one was PHPB, and I actually found on the way back machine at a point in time, roughly around 2002, 2004, when I was using this software. So this is really interesting to me. It's kind of a bit of a blast from the past, but what we are going to be recreating with modern tools is this forum idea, the simple concept of being able to post a thread and then have people reply and post and what have you. So that's what we will be building. We're going to be building something very simple and very similar to what we have here. And this is, again, like I say, something I spent a lot of my kind of early career days building extensions for. So it's kind of just a throwback for me personally. So we've spent the first few days already setting up a schema, a GraphQL schema with Hasura. We've created the database with permissions. So go back and watch episode 1 for how we did that. And I think the second episode begins to look at schema and authentication around that. So in this video, we will be implementing email and password authentication, and we will be building the our authentication with Hasura manually. I've chosen to do that because I don't want to throw in another provider such as Auth0 into the mix, just for how simple this is. I could go and do that, but what I really want to do at the end of this is have the code open source so anybody can come along, import into Hasura, and pretty much have a forum out of the box working with very little setup. So I know it's not too difficult to set up Auth0 and all of the auth providers. I just want to remove that one step. So that's why I'm doing this manually. So let's pick up where we left off last night, which was what we had. If we run the server, we had a simple auth React context provider that took care of sending an API request to our API route in Next.js, which was called login. Then we also had /API/register, and we passed along our name, email, and password for registering. And then for logging in, we also passed the email and password. And then the response of that is then populated and reduced here, and the reducer updates the state. The immutable state here is updated. We set authenticated to true, and then we set the everything else for the user we send down, and we send down the token and user. So that'll kind of override the initial state of the null values here. So that's pretty much how we have it. And then for the auth provider, we also have two hooks, use auth dispatch and use auth state. And if we quickly look at the index page, you'll see that we are importing our state values, and then we are also importing the login and register and logout dispatch methods. And then simply on the page, when we click those, we pass in the arguments that are required, and then that calls it and updates the state. So over on localhost 3000, what we should see is when we click login, it'll say hello Jamie, and when we log out, it'll return that. If we click register, we pass a different name, so it'll say hello John, and then if we log out, that will also return. This is using Tailwind. We set that up in the second video, I believe. So in this video, we are going to look at creating email and password authentication manually ourselves. Yeah, let's get going. So what we need to do is we're going to be using a bunch of different libraries, I think. So just looking at this, I've not done this with Hasura manually, so I'm just going to do what I would normally do if I was doing this myself outside of Hasura, and then hope that the JWT works. So we got a simple JWT claim here. So this is the subject, which could be the user ID. And then we've got the user's name here, so this will be handy. Then we also have, so this is obviously required by Hasura, this claim here. Allowed rules, default rule, user ID, org ID. So we probably don't need that because it's just an example, and org ID is an example. User ID though, I'm going to guess, we've seen this in the first video when we set up the database for Hasura. I'm going to assume that that will be passed to, that's going to come through the authorization header. So the claim will pick that up if we don't provide it in the header, I'd imagine. So default rule and allowed rules are mandatory. And the default rule can be overridden. So yeah, I'm going to imagine that's the same. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Right, so we got to figure this out. So we're going to need to create that claim, and I'm just going to copy and paste that. We'll just put this at the bottom of the file for now so we can come back to it. And let's go ahead and install some things. I'm probably going to install npm install JSON web token, and what's the other library called? bcrypt.js. Is it bcrypt.js? Yeah. So we'll install bcrypt.js and JSON web token, and that will just allow us to hash the password and create a JWT. And then Hasura will take care of verifying the token, providing the secret matches. So we've got to configure that. I don't know how to do that, but I imagine there'll be a way. So let's go ahead and run the server again, and let's not do register just for the moment. Or maybe we do register because we need to create a user in Hasura. So that probably makes sense, right? Okay, so I'm probably also going to install. Did I install GraphQL request already? No. So I'm going to install GraphQL request and GraphQL dependency here, and this just allows us. It's just a simple wrapper for fetch, but it kind of just does some nice things like destructuring data, stringifying it, and what have you before and afterwards. So let's once again run the next server, and then in the login API route, we'll just go ahead and we will import the JWT. I guess I can just do import JWT from JSON Web Token, and we can import. Now we're going to need what we're going to need. I'll just do bcrypt for now from bcrypt.js, and what else? So we need to look up the user from Hasura. So we're going to need some kind of Hasura client. Import Hasura admin client. I'll make that a named export, and we'll get that from our lib folder, and we'll just call that Hasura admin client. So we haven't got that file, so let's go ahead and create that. We'll create a folder for lib, and then we'll create that JS file. Probably should use TypeScript. Probably save my butt a few times, but you know, YOLO. Let's live on the edge a little. Just checking the stream for comments. No. Okay, cool. So what we'll need to do now is we will import the GraphQL client from GraphQL request, and we'll also, do we need to import GQL? No, we don't. So let's just create a Hasura admin client. Yeah. Export const. Can we do that? Yeah. New GraphQL client, and then we'll pass in the endpoint. So this will be process.env, and then we're going to prefix this with next public underscore, and then we'll do Hasura API endpoint. We don't have that, so let's now, before we forget, let's go ahead and create env.local, and we'll populate that result. So over in Hasura, if we go and log in, we've got this endpoint here, and we'll populate this here. And then we're going to need the Hasura admin. How does it authenticate? Admin secret. Set an admin secret is in the production checklist. So we have to create an env for set env secret. Okay. Where do we do that? Env, new env, admin secret, and what we'll do is I will just pull this off screen for one moment, and on the other screen I'm just going to create a secret. It's not important, but for now I can always change it, but let's go ahead and create that value. So I've created that Hasura GraphQL admin secret in here. So this value is here. And then over inside of here, I'm also just quickly going to pull this off screen, and I'm going to create, I'll leave this on screen to name it. So we'll do Hasura GraphQL admin secret. So there's match, and then I'll paste in that key off screen. I'll save that file and bring that file back. So inside of env.local, I have that secret now. I could, since we're using Vercel, we could add that secret to Vercel, and then we could use the Vercel CLI to run the dev environment here. So it'll kind of just inject those keys for us. But we'll not do that. Then we need to set the headers, and I'm guessing this is going to be like authorization or something. And we'll do that same. So let me just pull out screen 1 second. Can't remember what I named the variable. Okay, so we'll do this, and that should be it. So what we now need to do is I just need to check that this is authorization. I'd imagine it to be, but maybe it's not. Verify permissions. Verify permissions. Use an admin secret. How could we do this? How could we do this? Okay, authentication. Okay, so we're here before. Authorization, Hasura role. Admin secret. Okay, so JWT authentication is enforced when X Hasura admin secret is set. So this is X Hasura admin secret. Now I thought this kind of X thing was, it wasn't frowned upon. I don't think it was the best practice anymore. So maybe I've got that wrong and it's the reverse. It is a best practice, but I thought we didn't use X anymore. I think we just kind of named it, so it would just be Hasura admin secret. But maybe I'm thinking of something else. Right. So we've got kind of this Hasura admin client configured with our secret and endpoint, then we are importing that. So now what we're going to need to do, we're in the login file, and let's open register, because we said we'll do that first. We'll copy the same thing over. We'll import that admin client. And I know for a fact I'm going to need to write a GraphQL query, a mutation in here to create a user. I can't remember exactly what that looks like, but we can use the graphical interface to do so. Let's just refresh. I've had this tab open for a few days now. Launch console. Okay, so we've got the header in here. Right, now then, let's write a mutation. And this mutation will be to create or insert, well, that was it, yeah, insert users 1, pass the object, and we need to set the name, don't we? So we'll create a variable there, we'll set the email, and we'll also set that to email, and then we will set the password to be password. Then we'll return the ID, the name, and I suppose we could put email in, it's just for the user, doesn't really matter. Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that. So in mutation, we will call this insert user. We'll say name is of type string. So insert users 1, insert users 1. Let's have a look at the payload. Object. Okay, so they're all optional. Is that right? So that will have to be like this. Maybe as we broke the schema before. Password as password is string as well. If we run that, it's not going to work because it's going to say well, we haven't passed anything. So we'll say name is Jamie, email is jamie@notrab.dev, and then we'll say the password is hello. This will be encrypted later, and let's run that. Duplicate key. We have an email already, so we'll just do notrab2. Okay, so that's created the user. I'm just going to add this here and see what happens. I don't know what's going on with that. It's not. I'm just going to add. Yeah, let's just do this, and because if that's not passed, surely what will happen? It should error and say, you know, yeah, we're getting a validation error. Okay, so that's fine. So we've got the mutation we need, and we just now need to, we'll call this, what did we call it? Create. Call it insert user, and I need to use GQL and put that in here. We can get GQL from GraphQL request. Yeah, let's open up Hasura admin client, and we will do export GQL from GraphQL request. So we don't have to kind of import that again. I've got 2 imports. I don't know what the best practice is. I could just do GQL from GraphQL crest, but I don't know. Then as you know, there's an extra line there I don't need. I could just write GQL here. Okay, so we've got the query, the mutation, sorry, and that seems to work. Now, now we need to get the user. Sorry, I'm jumping the gun here. Number one, look up user from Hasura by email. So let's do that. We'll do get user by email, and then we will write a query. See, I knew what I was doing before. We need to write a query, and we'll call this get user by email, pass in email, which we know is a string, and then we will say users. Now, this is where, before, when we looked, I have to pass both arguments. I specified email as a primary key and ID as a primary key. I imagined I'd be able to just run this query for each of these, but that doesn't seem to be the case. So we're going to have to do users and then run a filter on this, and we'll just say email is email, and then we will return, we'll just need to return ID, whether it exists or not, right? So let's remove the variables we do not need. Validate the JSON, make that look nice. Okay, this is going to be equals. We remember that from before. Make that look nice, run that. Okay, cool. So we are getting the user with that email back from the system. So I should be able to copy this and inside of here, add that here, and then we can run this. We can run this now. We can run it. So what will we do? We will do const user. Will we do const user? We'll call this, because this is registering. What we need to do is if we find a user, we need to send an error back. So we'll do found user await Hasura admin client dot request, and we'll pass in that get user by email, and then we'll pass an object here, and we'll pass in email as our variable. Now this returns an array, so we'll destructure users, and from the first user we'll destructure found user. Thanks very much for the comment. Great content. I appreciate that. I hope you like it. I hope you enjoy it. Please let me know if you've got any questions, and I'll continue to stream throughout the days. Probably going to spend a few hours tomorrow streaming this, and we'll kind of get as much done as we can, and kind of make some real good progress on this. I'm excited with the progress we've got already. So we've got found user. Now, if we have a user, okay, so let's follow our comments. Let's stick to the rules here. So we'll get rid of that. Next, we need to, if the user is found, return an error. So if the user is found, what is it doing? We'll do res status. What would the status be here? Status would be, trying to think what the status code would be. I think this is always a ambiguous code. What code do you put for a user that's found? It's, it's a duplicate email. So technically, it's a validation issue. But we don't want to kind of give away to the user, although they're going to get an error. We don't kind of want to give away that there's a user in the system. We just kind of want to throw an error. So I might just put 400, and we'll just say this is a client-side validation error, and then we'll return some, message, ambiguous message like, unable to create account with email. With this email, with the email provided. Try another. I don't know. I would like to internationalize these errors as well. Maybe as we bring in some library to handle that, because I want to kind of in the future add some locale for users. So here we have it. If user is found, return an error. That's going to return here, and it's going to say, whoops, there's no, we're unable to create an account with the email provided. We're not going to provide any more information other than that, because we don't want to kind of give away to the user. Right, now what do we have? Now we need to hash the password. And we're calling password here. I'm just going to call this raw password. It would be nice to do this on the front end. Like one nice solution for authentication is actually something called user base, where it takes care of all of the hashing and things on the front end, and you have no control over how that works, and the back end has no idea on how to decrypt that. So I really like that library. For us though, I'm not going to use that for various reasons. If you are serious about this, I would probably look into something like that. It does have some of its quirks as well. If a user does forget their password, you have to use a machine it's previously authenticated on. Otherwise, I don't think there's any way to recover the account, because it's hashed and the hash key is stored in the browser. So if you've got no device that's left logged in, you're stuck. So for this, I don't want to do that. I just want to kind of follow. I've done this 100 times over the years, and it's very simple. It's a very simple way. There's probably 100 holes in it, but for the purposes of what we are building, we're trying to kind of just stub out basic functionality, and then over time we can add functionality to this. So we need to first, with the bcrypt library, I need to remind myself how bcrypt.js works. Ooh, did I install the wrong one? Bcrypt. So it was published 4 years ago. It's pretty solid though, right? It's still quite a popular library. Now I know majority of those are probably CI installs, but it's pretty solid. What we need to do is, what did it say at the top here? To hash a password, we generate a salt, and then we pass in the salt to hash password, and then to compare we can. Okay, so gen salt rounds, I don't know, how many rounds do we need? Defaults to 10. So thanks very much for joining. If for those viewers just joining in now, we are creating a forum software, and at the moment we are just kind of creating manual email password authentication, and we are using bcrypt and then JSON web token to create a token. We've got about 30 minutes left of the stream for this afternoon for me, and then later on today I'll probably stream some more. If not, we'll do plenty of streams over the weekend where we'll kind of get going with some of the fun stuff. So rounds, well, let's default to 10 if it isn't provided. So why don't we just do 10? So we'll say the const salt is equal to bcrypt dot gen salt. Do a wait, and then we'll say that the password is now going to be bcrypt And then this will be hash. And then hash takes in string, which is going to be the raw password. And then it's going to take in that salt. And that should return a promise. Okay. So I think we're gold. Next, let's create a user on Hasura. And we have a mutation for that already. Insert user. So let's do that now. We're using the Hasura admin client. And we will do what will we do? Let's just do user, and we will do Hasura. We'll await Hasura admin client.request, and then we'll pass in that query, and then we'll pass in our variables. And the variables will be name, email, and password. And then, yeah, we're going to pass name, email, and password. Password was renamed to raw password. Then we created password. We'll pass in name, email, password. And what does that return? That returns users, insert users 1. So we'll have to destructure that. Not fond of the name. You can change these as well in Hasura's configuration. And then I think all that's left to do now, right, is once that's created, create a JWT or JOT. So we'll say, what shall we say? The token is going to be, we imported JSON or JWT. So this is going to be JWT sign. And then we pass in the payload, and then we pass in that secret key. And this is the bit I'm not sure about yet. The secret key. So how do we do this? Let's first sign the payload. Yeah, let's first sign the payload. And that payload is an object. And we'll say that we'll add an environment variable here called Hasura JWT secret. And then options, sign options, subject. Okay, so we'll set the subject, the sub. We'll set that to insert users 1.id because we fetched that back, right? Yeah, we got ID. So we'll just set the subject of the JWT to BID. It could be email. Could be email. What else do we need to do? Expires in. Let's not set an expiration date just yet. Algorithm is the default. I forgot, is it 256 or something? We'll find that out. So, okay, we need to sign, and I want to send the email. We don't need to send the user ID, right? Because it's going to have that in the token already. But we do need to send, remember, we do need to send the payload. Where did it go? I lost it. We need to send the payload that Hasura is expecting, which, if we remember rightly, is this. So we need to send this. We don't need these two. Allowed roles is going to be, we have the roles guest, user, and those are the allowed roles. Anything a user do can do what a guest can. Anything, and that's it. So we'll say when you are logging in. Later, what we'll probably do is when we log in as an admin or a moderator, we'll update these roles. But for now, we'll just hard code these because we don't have anything in the database to kind of store what the role is. So we'll do that maybe later. I'm sure it's as straightforward as just bringing that across, but we'll do that in a different video. It's not important. We're not too concerned about moderators at the moment. We'll probably do that as a bonus video. So Hasura user ID is going to be insert users one.id. So that will bring that'll do that. And we're just sending the email along in the payload, just because we can. I don't think it's necessary for what we are doing. So we could omit that. But if I don't know, if we wanted to, let's not put the email. And then if anyone was to get the token, they couldn't see the contents of that. They would just see the IDs, which anyone can get. And by the way that we have our permissions set up with Hasura, you can't query for emails. So that's fine. So let's remove that. And we are returning that response. And let's make this a 201 response. And we'll pass token. And we'll spread in users 1. Okay, so we have the token, and then we're going to spread in everything from here. So it's going to spread in ID, email, password into the response from the API endpoint. So the one thing we need to do is this Hasura JWT secret. And we need to figure out how we do that in Hasura. Secret, JWT secret, new. Oh, okay, what's this? So this is what we're doing. Yeah, HS256 was what I thought. And then we've got this key here. And I'm guessing this is just an example. The key is the actual shared secret, which is used by Hasura and the external auth server. Our external auth server is our endpoint. So we need to share that. I'm guessing this is what we need to sign that payload with. So we take this. Where do we put this now? I will just generate a secret key once again. And I will, on another window, I'm just going to define the I'm going to define this environment variable inside of env.local. I'm going to pull it off screen and I'm going to set a value there. And let's just grab a value here and paste that in. And now we have to put this somewhere with that secret I've just created. Let me just format that correctly on another screen. Okay, so I have in my clipboard this, but with my own key. I'm going to refresh this page, and I'm just going to see if this is random. Is this random? HS256. I should have seen what the... No, I think that's static. It's a static value, right? That would have been cool. That'd be cool documentation if that is completely random. But I guess they use that throughout the doc, so it might not make sense. But that's a good idea for documentation if you're doing things like this that is unique, or if anybody's streaming for this example. Streaming anything with this. This would be cool if it was just refreshed on every page load of the docs, and then, if anyone was to copy this, that key's not being shared around people. I can see that happening. I was about to do that. So where do we put this? Where do we put this? JWT. Configuring JWT mode. You can enable JWT mode by using the right, well, we're not running it locally, or the Hasura GraphQL JWT secret. So maybe we should rename our token to be that Hasura GraphQL JWT secret. So inside of here, we'll just do Hasura GraphQL _ JWT secret. And that just makes it really easy when we are looking back at documentation, what is what. So we need to figure out how we configure this in Hasura. So this is interesting. Configuring JWT mode, Hasura GraphQL JWT secret environment variable. Okay, I should have finished reading the sentence. So I'm guessing this is going to be another environment variable. Hasura JWT secret. But it needs, okay, so it looks, yeah, it must prefix that automatically. I'm going to pull this off screen just so I can populate that with what I had in my clipboard, the secret. And yeah, we now have that added back. So I'll bring this back in here. So we have that working. Right. I think we're almost there with creating a user account. So what we have is we first make a query down here to check to see if the user exists with an email. If a user already exists with that email, then what we are going to do is just return a validation error to say that they can't, account can't be created. We're doing that, so we're not returning a 401 or whatever to say it's like an unauthorized request, or I'm not too sure what the code should be for this instance. But we shouldn't tell the person that the account exists with that email, because then they know that email exists in the system. So this is just kind of a way around that, a way around that issue, just by saying we're unable to create an account. We then create a salt and hash the password with that salt, and that gets stored amongst the hash. I'm guessing the salt is stored amongst there, so when we come to compare it, it knows how to generate the, like, how it's going to have to compare those passwords. We'll get onto that in the login, but it's going to need to log in, and then that will take care of figuring that out and comparing the values from the hashed value and the unhashed value. But yeah, and then we insert a user into Hasura, and then with the name, email, and password variables, and then we create a token and we sign that, pass in what Hasura needs, and then we pass in the secret. That is a shared secret that Hasura know and what we know, and then we're just setting the sub to be the ID of the user, and then we return a token and use as 1. So this is running. I've not tested this out yet, so let's give it a test. We haven't got a form yet. We'll do that tomorrow. We'll create a form, or maybe later today we'll create a form for registering users. But on the index page, why don't we... Okay, so we're passing in name, email, and password already, albeit not secure details, but it should work. It should create a user with John with the email j@j.com. So why don't we click register? Unexpected token JSON. Can't resolve Hasura admin client. Okay, that makes sense. So register, go back into the directory, and now if we refresh this page and we click register, nope. What have we done wrong? Only absolute URLs are supported. Only absolute URLs are supported. Let's restart the server. I think this may be an environment variable that isn't set. So if we click register now, nope. Still getting an internal server error. But this time we've got something new. Okay, cool. Invalid key, so we're having access denied. X Hasura admin secret. X Hasura admin secret. GraphQL. I'm just going to pull this off screen 1 second to have a look at the environment variable. Yeah, I think we're okay with that secret. Client error. Hasura access is denied. Invalid X Hasura status node. Right. Well, I'm going to pull this off and have a look at the environment variable for that secret. I'm going to copy the secret once again, and inside of my env file, I'm just going to paste that secret just to make sure. Yeah, it is. It's the same key. It's the same key. So, not entirely sure why that is saying it's invalid, because the key matches X Hasura admin secret or X Hasura access key is invalid. Hasura admin headers. Hasura GraphQL admin secret. That's the name of the secret. That's the name of the secret. So what could we be doing wrong? So, got a question. What is Hasura? Hasura is a GraphQL backend. Hasura.io. It's a GraphQL. It's an instant GraphQL API with built-in authorization for your data. So essentially, what you can do is you can create a database on Postgres, and you can specify permissions around it, and you can create all of the fields and rows and columns and tables and foreign keys and unique keys and constraints. You can create absolutely everything that you would in a normal database, and Hasura will automatically build an API. You may be familiar with this with most modern content management systems, but Hasura takes it a step further by their flexible authentication and remote schemas. So, with all that said, I'll go check it out, go sign up, have a look at it, and I'm sure they've got videos on what actually it is, and you can read all about it on their website. But they do have a neat feature, which is kind of remote schema stitching. So if you have a bunch of GraphQL APIs, you can kind of stitch them all into be one GraphQL API, and Hasura takes care of the communication there. But we are running into an issue. Admin secret. Now, I don't think it matters whether these are uppercased, right? I can't see that being the problem. I'm just not sure what's going on. I'm certain that is not what we should be doing. But I'm seeing here that we have query get users by email. That's running with the correct email. So we've done that, and that is returning an error. And the error is that it's an auth error. So let's run that once more. And let's try it once more. We haven't done anything, so it's probably not going to work. We click register. Unexpected tone I. So this just sends the correct data, but it just kind of blows up at this point. So let's have a look inside of our auth, how we're sending that. We're sending it as JSON and login. Application JSON is the content type here. We're stringifying it, so that's fine. So this smells like it's an issue with Hasura. Maybe that token's not saved. Do we need to reboot the server? I don't know. Maybe check your browser network tab to verify the header is being sent with the request to Hasura. Yeah, Michael, the request is happening on the server, so it won't actually show in the browser. We're calling an API endpoint, so the header won't show in here. I could just log the token in the API in the serverless function here. I'm probably going to do that off screen just because it doesn't really matter about these secrets. Because I'm building this on the live stream, I don't want there to be any chance of people getting that token and running anything. And there's another question. Do you not need next public in front of the Ian variable? No. Oops. This is only run on the server. This secret is, it's kind of server only. This endpoint here, I've prefixed it with next public, so it can work on the front end as well. I don't have to kind of create two different things. I can just prefix that, and that will be injected into the front end when I need to use that in the front end later. So I'm just going to, inside of this API, for register, I'm going to console log the token here. So I'm going to do console.log, and we're going to do process.env, and I am going to log this. I'm going to take that off screen. I'm going to load up the terminal. I'm going to rerun this. And yep, that gets the token. So the token is there. That token is there. So this token does get logged out, and it does go with the header. Hasura client. I might just put that inside of there just to see if it's an issue with that. Yeah. Oh dear. env.local. So on another window right now, I'm just getting that admin secret, and I'm populating it inside of the header manually instead of reading it from an environment variable. Then I'm going to refresh. Click register. Right, that worked. Okay. That sent a request, and it's returned the token. So it's returned the token. So the problem is it's not reading that. Now, I don't think it matters that the value has all sorts of different weird characters in it. I don't know if it's an issue with... It wouldn't be an issue with anything getting escaped or anything. There's kind of single and double quotes in there. Maybe that's the issue. I don't know. It's just really weird. Process.env, Hasura, GraphQL admin, secret, env.local. It does read that file because I've seen it printed out inside of here. So it is able to parse the value, but it just isn't including it in this GraphQL client. That register function that you showed, does it use the GraphQL request function? Yes, it does. Does it? Does it? Yeah. Where are we looking? Yeah, so Hasura admin client dot request. Insert user. We know, do we, yeah. Hasura admin client.request. So we're using this. It's just not populating the value there, which is weird. And we don't need to import .env or anything because Next does that for us automatically. What could this be? Yeah, this is interesting. So the problem is it's not reading this value in this file, but it does have it. Are we using GraphQL request correctly? So dot request or headers with an authentication header. Yep, we passed the endpoint, authorization, bearer, my token. Doesn't need bearer because I've not seen anything in the documentation that says it does. Hasura add, it's just a secret. It's not a bearer token. It's not bearer token auth. Headers, authorization, my token. Headers, X Hasura admin secret. I don't think we're not doing anything. We're not doing anything different. JWT authentication is enforced when that header is not found. Authentication is skipped. What? Oh, that's fine. That's fine. So on the client side, we need that JWT. With the claims and these right in the ID, that's fine. When the admin secret is present, obviously you don't need the JWT. So this is not the correct documentation that I should be looking at. That's fine. That's your admin secret. Securing the endpoint. Admin secret. I mean, this is in caps, but and this does work when you put the value in manually without coming from an environment variable. Yeah, so sometimes the environment variable doesn't like spaces and strings. Yeah, possibly. Let me just load that up again on a different window. env.local. There's no spaces, but there is some funky characters in there. Let me just generate a new one real quick. That could be it, Michael. That could be the problem. Let's just generate a new string. Yeah. So I've added that to my env.local file, a new string. I then need to go back to Hasura. I have the window open on another page here with my environment variable for Hasura GraphQL admin secret. I'm going to update the value of that to be something else. Let's remove that. And bring that window back. Now let's stop the server. We'll rerun the server. We have the new value without those weird characters in. Maybe Hasura doesn't like that. Right. Lastly, on the index page, we'll need to change the email because this email will now be taken. So we'll just do this and we will head to localhost. And then we're going to get nothing here. We'll click register. Hey! Thanks, Michael. That's probably the problem, that it does have some weird, funky characters in there. And that's probably the problem. I'm not sure if that's a Hasura issue. Maybe we can ask them and see if there's any kind of we can maybe I could have a look at what I was sending before and ask them to have a look to see what the problem could be. It may not be parsing it or whatever, or comparing them correctly. So I'll reach out to them and just kind of get clarification on that. But now we've kind of got registration working. We're sending a request to our custom API endpoint. We are then we're sending the name, email, and password. From the response, we are getting an email, ID, name, and the token. And the token is what we'll put into local storage for now. We'll put it in local storage for now so we can keep access to that. And then we will be able to use that on future requests. Obviously, if I refresh the page now, that token has just gone. And then all that's left to do, now we've done this for registering accounts, we just need to do the same for logging in and logging accounts in. So I'll probably just do the login video a bit later on today. Need to go back to my day job now and need to continue with that. But later on today, what we'll do is we'll continue and we will add the login serverless function. We'll do pretty much the same as what we've done already. We'll look up to see if a user exists. If it does exist, then what we'll do is we'll go ahead and, if that user exists and the password matches, we'll return and create that same token like we are on the registration function and just return all of this. Cool. So thanks for joining, Michael. And everybody else that joined and commented, thank you very much for joining today. I'll be back on later on today doing that login serverless function. Maybe we'll introduce the local storage for storing that token, and maybe we'll find out what was really up with that token that we passed to Hasura. So, but that's fine. Thank you very much for everybody who joined. If you do have any questions, please let me know, and I'll be streaming again later today. Thanks.